Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for hosting me here. Look, I'll just do a very quick 1-minute rundown on myself and my experience, just so you know why I'm up here talking to you guys about this stuff. And then we'll get into all the juicy stuff. I'm just going to grab this over here. I've got a terrible memory and I forget stuff a lot. I'm trying to compress down 6 hours worth of information and workshops into 1 hour today. So hopefully we can get through as much as possible and just pick the eyes out of all the important stuff, hopefully. So I've been in business for about 25 years. Makes me feel old every time I say that. I'm from Melbourne originally. I had a wholesale business back there, which I sold in 2004. And then I thought I'd try this online stuff. We used to sell products to Harvey Norman, JB Hi-Fi, all of these sort of guys. Thought I had enough of that. But I want to try this interweb thing and see if I can sell stuff online. So I started selling one product. The product at the time was a tutorial on how to build websites. It was just a PDF document, selling it for $19. In my first year, I did a grand total turnover of, wait for it, $6,500. You're probably wondering, why is this guy talking to us then? I had a mortgage to pay, kids to feed, all that sort of stuff. Fortunately, I learned from a lot of the mistakes that I made, a lot of things that I should have done that I didn't do, a lot of things that I didn't do that I should have done. In subsequent years, that particular little business was doing around about $350,000 US, which I know isn't a lot, but it was very, very profitable. I was just selling digital products, very low cost of delivery, so it was quite a profitable little business. That resulted in a lot of people asking me, "Oh, how do you do this? Can you help us with our business website? Can you help us, strategize a bit? How do you sell online?" Remember, we're talking 13, 14 years ago here. So I started doing a little bit of consulting work, which led to them saying, okay, great, now I understand this stuff, but now I need some help implementing it. So I had to start doing some work for them. Obviously, my time ran out, hired some staff. That developed into a full-blown web development business, which I ran for about 5 or 6 years. I had about 12 staff. We were doing everything from building websites to consulting to all that sort of stuff. Sold that business about 4 or 5 years ago. Bought one retail store. We've grown that to 3 retail stores. They're over in Queensland. We've got an Amazon store, eBay store, website, all of that sort of stuff. So I guess, as John said, what I'm going to share with you today isn't just theory. It's not just something I've read out of a book, and I'm not just some web developer who has a few marketing ideas. This is stuff that I do each and every day. I still have a couple of private consulting clients that I work with on a regular basis. One of them just recently, we redid their website. They went from 60 inquiries a month to 420 just by updating their website and rejigging their marketing strategy. So the stuff I'm going to share with you, hopefully you can implement. I'm going to actually go through some implementable stuff that you can implement straight away. And we'll get started. So everyone here is in business. I just want to clarify, everyone here has an existing business. Show of hands if you are doing some online marketing already. Just put your hand up nice and high. And keep your hand up if it's working for you. Just want to get a bit of an idea of who's doing what and not too sure. Okay, cool. All right, just gives me a bit of a feel. So feel free to ask questions during the presentation. If we're running a bit behind on time, I might stop the questions for the end, or I might just start talking faster, in which case you might have to listen quicker.
Do you have handouts for this presentation?
I don't, no. Yeah, just notes. So just grab some notes. So we'll start off with a general digital marketing strategy, because I want to go through some concepts here first, okay? Because it's not just about talking about websites or Facebook or any of that sort of stuff. It's really about understanding how buyers are using the web, okay? Because it's not just about saying you need a website, you need a Facebook page. When you understand what's going on and how people use the web and the psychology behind it, you're able to develop your own strategies in a lot more effective ways. So couple of interesting statistics. 84% of online purchases begin with a search. Okay, 84 begin with a search. Another interesting stat is that of that 84%, only 19% are ready to buy right now. That means 81% are researching. Let me go through a bit of an example of what I'm talking about here. Who has kids? Anyone here have kids? All right, let's say you got a little newborn baby and the baby has nappy rash. You don't know how to deal with it. What do you do these days, guys, when you don't know how to deal with something? Dr. Google, okay? So you hop on Google, type in nappy rash. Let's say, hypothetically, you find that there's 2 particular solutions. One is a particular cream that deals with the nappy rash. Another one is a specific type of nappy that avoids nappy rash altogether. Believing that prevention is better than cure, you do a bit more research and figure out, look, do these nappies actually work? Why do they work? What do other people think about them? You're spending time doing research. Anyone gone through a similar process? Maybe not with nappies, but something else, right? Okay. So that's that 81% that are researching their upcoming purchase. At some point, they're going to be buying those nappies, but they didn't start off looking for those nappies. They were looking for a solution to a problem. Does that make sense? So a lot of people are online searching for information relating to their upcoming purchase. Why am I sharing all this with you? Because the majority of small business owners set up their website completely wrong. What they do is they create a website, they do marketing, and all they market and push and promote is the products. Remember, only 19% of people are ready to buy right now. And everyone is targeting that 19%. So what the concept is here is that you need a strategy in place that's going to A, get you in front of the 19% that are ready to buy right now. But what about the other 81%? What are you doing about those? So we're going to go through a quick strategy, which I've written up here, that'll cater for both of those circumstances, okay? So the idea here is that we're not talking, okay, I'll take a step back. One of the questions I get asked a lot by people is, should I set up a Facebook page? And I say, I don't know. Why do you want to set one up? Well, everyone's telling me I should. Well, that's the wrong question. It's not about whether you set up a Facebook page. It's not about whether you set up a LinkedIn account or a website. It's more about what's your strategy and which tool and resource are you going to use to fulfill that particular strategy. So let's go through the strategy now. Step one is lead generation. Lead generation is really simple. It's any activity that you participate in that's going to get your business in front of a new prospective client, okay? Someone that has not heard about you before. An example of that will be something like search engine optimization, or SEO for short. That's the process of getting your website listed on the front page of the major search engines, doing Google AdWords, running a Facebook ad, boosting Facebook posts. Any of that sort of stuff that's going to get you in front of someone that has not heard about you before is lead generation. That's not new. It's not a big aha moment. We all do that in our businesses, okay? So that's pretty stock standard. The next step, though, is what we call prospect nurturing. Prospect nurturing is about capturing that 81% that aren't ready to buy right now and begin to build a relationship with them, to build rapport, to build trust, so that when they get to their buying decision, you're already forefront in their mind. You're already the one that they're going to think about, well, I've already had some interactions with this particular company. I'm going to continue interacting with them. And that ties into the next step, which is conversions. Now, it's not just about each step individually also. You need to figure out and strategize, how will I move a particular prospect from lead generation into prospect nurturing? For example, are we going to do something such as, we've generated a lead, now we're going to get them into an email marketing program. We've generated a lead, now we're going to get them as a Facebook follower. What are we going to do? How are we going to move them through this process, and how are we going to continue building the conversation with them, okay? So once we've done a bit of prospect nurturing, by the way, the way you do prospect nurturing is generally through adding value, okay? You identify issues, challenges, frustrations, problems, things, information that they want to know, information that's of value to them. Give them that information, usually in a interesting but incomplete way. So useful, relevant, but incomplete information. So it's not enough information for them to go off and do something on their own. They're still going to have to contact you at some point to sort of finish the story.
Just give us an example of that.
Okay, so I'll use an example from one of my own businesses. When I was selling the how to build a website tutorial, okay? So one of the things that we did in our business was we would survey all our clients. And one of the things that we found was when we surveyed the person that bought our tutorial, they said, look, your tutorial's great. We've learned how to build a website. But the problem is still that we still don't know how to plan our content and how to plan all our other stuff and how to strategize and all these other things. So we started off creating another product, which we called the website pre-start program. And it was all about the planning, the strategy, the steps involved. It's more the preparation side. But we were going to sell that, but instead we started offering that as a free product. So we would generate the leads by saying, hey, this is how you build a website, learn all the steps involved. They would go through this free course that we literally offered. And that was a series, I think, of about 18 videos. But all that did was build up the desire to then buy the full product, which was part of the conversion process. Does that make sense?
Would that be similar to Bob, where we would put a case study on our website of a business that's gone from this to that as a result of being
Absolutely, yeah. And even going a step further than that, identifying challenges and frustrations that people are experiencing, and just having a discussion around that. You know, what challenges are they facing, and then talk about those challenges, introduce the challenges, talk about why those challenges occur, talk about ways of fixing it, but not the specifics of how to actually fix it.
So in sort of Ross's case, who's building gazebos, would that be something like that? How he has to go through council approval and how they make it easier?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can even talk about design stuff and give people, you know, like inspirational pictures, and like, 'cause that's one of the challenges if someone's going to do that sort of stuff. They're trying to think, what should I build? How can I fit that in? How would that look good? So you give them tips on all the introductory stuff. It's useful, it's relevant, but it's incomplete because they still can't finish it. They need to contact him to actually finish it off and know how do I do those final steps. Making sense?
Yeah.
Cool. The next step is conversions. Conversions obviously is actual selling. So this is where you're going to convert a prospect into an actual client. Now, the reason I put this up is because it's really important to actually have a strategy in place. I'm not just talking about having a website with a product where someone clicks a buy now button. This is about really thinking about your calls to action. What am I going to do to actually ask for the actual sale? You know, about 10 years ago, or maybe 12 years ago, and it was quite a while ago, I was talking to a really successful online marketer, guy from the States, and we were just having this conversation about conversions. How do you convert on a website? And one of the questions he asked me was, have you ever tried a call to action on your call to action? I kind of looked at him really confused, like, what do you mean? What does that mean? So we had a web page with a button on it that said, buy it now. It was a big, huge yellow button which said, or place your order now, or download the instant download. And to me, that was my call to action. But what his concept was, really push that call to action. As I said, his concept was put a call to action on that. And basically what he did was, just so you've got your buy it now button here, he put two big arrows pointing down to his buy it now button, and up here it said, click the button below to order your products instantly. We tried that and our sales increased by 30%. So by telling people the action that we want them to perform, we got them to perform that action more often. And we've tested this over and over again. And in most cases, the more calls to action that you put on there, the more times you'll actually get people to take those actions. So think about strategies on conversion. Now, I've also got upsell and cross-sell here. So even though that's part of the sales process, I still think it's really important to think about, how am I going to get an extra sale out of this existing sale? Just out of curiosity, who here has an upsell or cross-sell in their business at the moment? Okay, one person. This should be part of your everyday process, whether you're talking offline, online, any sale that you make. Anytime you're speaking to a customer, you need to know, I'm going to sell them product X, so I'm also going to offer them product Z and Y. So I'll give you a quick example of that. Let's say that I imported and sold a range of baby products. I'm importing nappies, I'm importing baby wipes, I'm importing baby booties and baby jumpsuits, okay? Someone's coming along to buy nappies. I've set up my system so that anytime someone buys nappies, I don't offer booties or jumpsuits, because even though they're baby products, they're not really closely related or tied to nappies, but baby wipes are. So if someone comes along to buy nappies, I'm going to offer a special package, maybe a 10% discount overall or whatever it is, to increase that average sale value. So I'm also getting the sale of the baby wipes and the nappies at the same time. Does that make sense? This should be stock standard in every business all the time. Online, offline doesn't make a difference. But you do need to strategize how that's going to come together. So when you're putting together any sort of online purchasing system, that those two go hand in hand with each other. The next step is customer nurturing. And this is a part that a lot of businesses miss out on. Let me tell you the importance of customer nurturing through a personal example, okay? Who here has at some point in their life had one of those friends that when they ring you and you pick up the phone, you see the name on the phone, the first thing you think is, what do they want this time? Anyone had one of those friends before? Okay, so if you're not customer nurturing, you are one of those people to your customers. You're only contacting them when you want to sell something, and that's what's going through their head. What you want to do is set up the dynamic where you are constantly offering, you're constantly adding value. You know what they've purchased. Go out of your way to come up with a process where you can continue to add value to their original purchase. So I'm going to use the gazebo example. What you might do after that is continue to send design tips, gardening tips, how to really lay out your garden really nice. sort of plants at work in a particular geographic area, whatever it might be, but it's about adding value to their initial sale. And once again, you want to tie that in as closely as possible to that original sale as well. That's part of the strategy development. Now, if you've gone through this process, chances are you've got a whole bunch of raving customers, but people that are raving fans of your business. And at some point, you're going to go back and resell to them. And the way you resell is through your customer nurturing program. Your customer nurturing program has to be very strategically developed so that A, it adds value to them, but it also softly and slowly introduces other products and services that you offer. It ties in with what you've already sold and other things that you can offer that same client. And then you ask them to purchase again. And once again, it's about actively asking for the sale. Finally, once you've gone through all of that, you go back and say, hey, how did you find our service? And hopefully they're finding your service and products really good. And say, look, if you know anyone else that could benefit from our products and services, we'd really appreciate if you could let them know about us. And then you have some kind of incentive program in place as well, where you incentivize the referrer and the referee. And if you haven't noticed, that referral leads back into part of your lead generation process. So this becomes a bit of a self-perpetuating process. You don't have any questions or queries so far?
Like your internet marketing, you're always referring to product. How do you go with services?
Same thing, product or service, there's no difference whatsoever. As far as this strategy goes, whether offering a service, whether offering a product, your conversion may be slightly different. And this is where I come back to what I said earlier about people saying, should I set up a Facebook page? I don't know whether you should set up a Facebook page. The question is, what are you going to use it for? Are you going to use it to generate leads? Are you going to use it as part of your prospect nurturing? Are you going to use it as part of your conversion? So you'll need to figure out how you'll perform each one of these steps and what tools and resources you'll use. But whether it's products or services, the overall strategy remains the same.
And sort of large businesses, such as areas where they're talking about high value products, sort of $500 million type products. Is it any different? Is it the same process for that?
Look, I mean, this has to be tweaked on an individual basis, and it's about coming up with, how will you do your lead generation? That could look different for every business that you talk about. How you do prospect nurturing could be really different, but it's still about the concept of nurturing that prospect. Like, what can you do as far as customer nurturing? So you've got existing customers. What else can you do? How else can you add value in a low-cost way or in a no-cost way to then keep that relationship going and keep that conversation going with them? And that's going to change in every business. But the overall plan pretty much remains the same. And look, also, we said earlier about the 19% that are ready to buy right now versus the 81%. So the 19% are going to go through a slightly different process. 19% that are ready to buy right now will go through lead generation, and they'll pop straight across to conversion. Then they're going to go into prospect nurturing because they want to buy now. They know they want to buy now, so that you don't need to nurture them as prospects. But the other 81% that aren't ready to buy right now, they need to go from lead generation to prospect nurturing to conversions. Yes?
Can you give us an example, please, of how to generate a lead?
Yeah, sure. Look, that could be anything from running a Google AdWords campaign, sending to, in fact, we're going to talk about the whole Google AdWords and strategy in about 5 or 6 minutes, or maybe 10 minutes. So I'll go through it. But whether it's through Google AdWords, through SEO, because they're doing a search, whether it's through display marketing on Facebook, boosting a post, running an ad, whatever it might be. So any of those things are going to get you in front of a new prospective client. YouTube videos, it could be a whole range of different things. Does that give you some idea? Cool. So what are we up to? Okay, so let's talk a little about search intent. So interestingly enough, Google has categorized all of the millions of searches that happen every day into 3 simple categories, okay? And it's really important to understand these categories, what they are and why they exist, and how to use those to your advantage. Number 1, Google has categorized searches into what they call location-based searches. So people are looking for where something is, okay? For where something is. The second one is what they call information-based searches. So people are looking for information. They want to know about a topic or a theme. And finally, there's a transactional search. In other words, they're looking to actually transact in a business. They want to make a purchase or of some kind. Now, the interesting thing is, when we're talking about search, is that different keywords will represent different categories of searches. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about here. a few years back, talking about 10 years plus, we were doing some research. I'm going to talk about this research in a minute, but we were doing some research on two keywords. One was tutorials. The other one was tutorial. The only difference here is one's singular and one's plural, okay? And what we found was that tutorials had around about 19,000 searches per month. There was a word before this, was WordPress tutorials. There was about 19,000 searches per month. Remember, I'm selling tutorials on how to do this stuff, so this is relevant to us. And tutorial only had about 8,000 searches a month. So at face value, my initial interest was in the word tutorials. I'm thinking I'm going to get a lot more traffic through to my website, and from that traffic, I'm going to make a lot more sales. We ended up targeting both of these two keywords and running a Google AdWords campaign. But what we discovered when we were tracking all of this was something really interesting, that the conversion rate from the 19,000, we were getting about a 0.9% conversion rate. Whereas on the word tutorial, we were converting at about 3%. So in other words, we were actually getting more sales out of less searches because the search intent behind tutorial is that I want to buy a product. That's a transactional keyword, okay? Whereas tutorials is an informational keyword. It's more general, and they're just looking for information around a particular topic. That's a good example of that categorization of Google. Now, the big question is, when you're doing any kind of search-based marketing, we'll talk about the two different types in a sec. When you're doing any search-based marketing, one of the things that you need to identify is which are the informational keywords and which are the transactional ones. And in a few minutes, I'll come back with a strategy on how to actually do that. Now, I've mentioned search-based versus display-based a few times, so let me just explain what I mean by that. There's basically two ways that you can advertise online, and that's it. There's really only two ways. One is what we call search-based marketing. Search-based marketing is where someone goes to Google and does a search because they know they have a problem, an issue, a challenge, or a frustration, and they're looking for a solution. They're proactively looking for the solution, okay? They might go to Google, they might go to Bing, wherever it might be. By far, Google gets the most traffic. So search-based marketing generally has a higher conversion rate when you're targeting transactional search-based keywords, okay? If you're targeting informational search-based keywords, then you'll need to set up a strategy like we spoke about, where you go from lead generation to prospect nurturing and then get the sale. The other type of online marketing is what we call display-based marketing. And display-based marketing is where you get your business in front of someone that's not necessarily looking for that at the moment, but they do fall in within a particular demographic of your most likely client. An example of that would be Facebook marketing, presenting ads to someone on Facebook, boosting a post and getting that post out to people that fit a particular demographic that are more likely to be your particular target market. Now, display marketing generally has a much lower conversion rate because people are not actually in the process of looking necessarily right here and right now. But it's important to identify those different types because they're very different strategies that are going to have to be dealt with in very different ways. Any questions or queries so far? Yes?
How does voice influence those types of searches?
What do you mean?
Voice searches.
As in if they're on their phone and they're doing a search?
Yeah, when I say, okay, Google.
Yeah, okay.
What I type in is very different to what I say.
Sure.
So how does that influence any of these?
That's a really good question. I've never really sat down to have a think about that. I guess, look, Google is going to interpret the search. So these days, whether you're putting in a misspelling or whatever else, Google still tries to identify the intent behind that search, okay? So look, in fact, I'm glad you brought that up. So let's talk once more about concepts, all right? So actually, no. I'm going to hold back because it's going to be part of what I'm just going to talk about shortly anyway. So we'll come back to that. So yeah, So Google has a lot of processes in place where Google identifies or tries to identify the searcher's intent and categorize it into one of those searches and present the most accurate results. Okay, so we'll get back to that though a bit later on. We'll cover some of that. I want to talk a little about search engine optimization or SEO because we did sort of bring that up a couple of times as a lead generation strategy. I'm going to cover it in a bit more detail shortly, but I just want to go do a bit of a summary first. So SEO, or search engine optimization, is the process of getting your website listed on the front page of the major search engines. It's kind of the holy grail of online marketing. If you can get in the top 3 positions, that's probably going to get you more traffic than anything else you could possibly imagine. The problem is you really need to be in those top 3 positions. If you're not in those top 3 positions, well, those top 3 get 82% of all the traffic, okay? So anything below the top 3, so if you're down at position 9 or 10, you're hardly going to get any traffic, even on page 1, okay? That's where most people go through, yes?
Are you talking about the top 3 paid?
No, the organics, the free search listings, yeah. Well, we will talk about the paid ones very shortly. Now, the interesting thing with SEO is that the process of setting up and running SEO is quite slow. It generally takes between 6 and 18 months for an SEO campaign to work, okay? So it's not as though you're going to go start doing SEO today and in a month's time you're going to be driving a heap of traffic. And one of the problems with setting up and running SEO is what we spoke about earlier when it comes to the searcher's intent. See, what most SEO companies do is they go out and do some keyword research. And once again, we'll talk about what keyword research is and how it works shortly. But they'll do some keyword research, come back with some statistics and say, look, these 5 keywords are getting X amount of traffic per month. We recommend that you focus on these as part of your SEO campaign. But they have no idea and no way to test whether these keywords are information-based searches or transactional searches. And what often happens is that the ones with the higher volume quite often are informational-based searches. So what happens is your SEO guy goes out, starts doing SEO for your company. 12 months later, you've paid $10,000 or $12,000, and you go back to your SEO guy and say, hey, we're not getting any more sales. What's happening? He says, oh, your website's crap. That's a problem. I'm sending you the traffic. Here's the proof. Anyone had that before? It's a common response from SEO guys, where the real problem actually is, in most cases, that they simply haven't identified which keywords are the transactional versus the informational ones. And then you need to start the whole process all over again. So I recommend a slightly different process when it comes to focusing on your SEO. The first step that I always recommend is running paid search engine marketing, something such as Google AdWords. And the reason for that is that setting up and running a Google AdWords campaign gives you the ability to, number one, have it up and running literally within an hour. You'll start getting traffic within a couple of hours. And within a month, you can identify exactly what's happening. You can identify which keywords are sending me traffic, which keywords are getting some kind of conversion, whether the conversion is sales, whether it's people filling out a form, or even picking up the phone and ringing your business. You can identify that quite easily through your Google AdWords campaign. You then take those successfully working keywords, and then you start an SEO campaign somewhere down the track. I usually recommend delaying your SEO somewhere between 2 and 6 months. So set up your Google AdWords first, have that up and running, and then get your SEO working. So I'm just going to see how we're going for time. We've got plenty here. Yeah, cool. All right, so let's go through the process of setting up and running a Google AdWords campaign to give you a bit of an idea of what's actually involved here. So first of all, does everyone know what Google AdWords is? Show of hands if you do. For those of you that don't, Google AdWords is Google's advertising platform. When you do a search on Google, the top 2 or 3 or 4 results that come up are your Google AdWords ads, okay? A big disclaimer here, most Google AdWords campaigns do not provide a positive return on investment. Most Google AdWords campaign, you will either break even or lose a little bit of money. I still recommend doing it because we're not doing this solely for the purpose of getting sales. We're doing this for the marketing intelligence that we're going to gather from that then we can apply to our SEO campaign, okay? So if you're going to run a Google AdWords campaign, step 1 is to choose a product, okay? One product or one service, all right? So most online marketing, whether it's Google AdWords, SEO, it's all about targeted niche marketing. What you don't do is just promote and push your homepage as a general, this is all about our business page. You choose one single area of your business. Can I share an example with you guys of this? So a while back, and I should have known better than this, it's always embarrassing telling this story because I made a big boo-boo, but when we started out with the retail shops, we do sell phone accessories, do phone repairs, buy and sell secondhand phones, all of that sort of thing. We set up and ran this is a Facebook campaign. And I made the mistake because I was so busy, my head was just full, I didn't stop and strategize this properly. So what I did is I set up my first ad on Facebook, started running it, and the ad was phone repairs and accessories, just a really general ad about our business on Facebook. Ran it for a month, spent about $200 or $300 and got 0 inquiries. Like no one inquired, no one did anything. And at the end of that month period, I sort of sat back and I thought, I know what I've done wrong here. I haven't targeted a particular market at all. So we got rid of that ad completely, that general ad, and we started creating specific ads. So the first ad we created was smashed your phone screen, come and visit us at My Screen. That's the name of the business. Phone battery going flat, come and visit us at My Screen. And they started getting some interaction. So the more we were targeting a specific market, the more interaction we were getting. Then we decided to break that down even further, and we created and started running and promoting ads to specific groups. So we took the smashed your phone screen ad and we targeted that at iPhone users and Samsung users. So we had an ad that literally said, smashed your iPhone screen, we are iPhone repair specialists, come and see us at My Screen. And every step that we targeted more and more, our conversion rates and inquiries increased and increased and increased. We're lucky that on Facebook you can literally target users specifically. We can say, show this ad only to people that either have accessed Facebook using an iPhone, have shown an interest in iPhones, or are part of some kind of iPhone or Apple group. So they're the only people that see the smashed your iPhone screen ad are iPhone users. Does that make sense? The more you target that, the more engagement and the more interactions and conversions you'll actually get. Same concept goes across the web, full stop. Same concept applies to SEO. When you're doing or running an SEO campaign, come back to my example earlier. I'd just say that I import and sell nappies, baby wipes, and baby jumpsuits. I would not send all of that traffic to my home page as a general page. I would create one page for nappies, one page for baby wipes, one page for jumpsuits, and I'm going to target those groups specifically and send them to those specific landing pages, okay? So, step 1 with your Google AdWords campaign is choose a product or service. Step 2 is to do some keyword research. Now, Google AdWords has a great little tool, or Google has a great little tool called the Google Keyword Planner. Show of hands if any of you have used that at all. Okay, a couple of people. The Google Keyword Planner is basically a tool that gives you access to what people are actually searching for. So you do need a Google AdWords account to access the tool. The good news is a Google AdWords account is free. So you'd go to google.com/AdWords, sign up for an AdWords account if you don't already have one. It's going to run you through this wizard that asks you to create an ad and all this other stuff. Just go through the process, whether you want to advertise or not. You need to do that to be able to get into Google AdWords. And once you get in, if you don't want to run the ad, just pause it or delete it. Once you're in there, there's a little spanner icon up in the top right-hand corner. You click on that, and the very, very first item on the menu is the Google Keyword Planner. You go into the Google Keyword Planner, and you'll type in a keyword or key phrase, where possible a keyword that's as broad as possible that still relates to your market. So let's say that I was selling nappies. Let's say that I sold both cloth nappies and disposable nappies. I would start with the phrase nappies. Okay, that's all I'll start with. Further down the page, there's an option to select a geographic area. That's really important because you want statistics and results for the catchment area where you're going to find your prospective clients. In other words, there's no point getting figures for Australia-wide because unless you sell Australia-wide, but if you only sell, say, in Perth or WA, it's irrelevant how many people are searching on different keywords in Melbourne or Sydney. So you choose a geographic area, then you click the big blue Get Ideas button. And what Google will do is come back with a list of keywords and key phrases that either contain your original seed keyword. In other words, if I use the word nappies, it'll have things such as girls' nappies, boys' nappies, overnight nappies. But it'll also contain related keywords and key phrases, things such as diapers or Huggies or anything else, or baby wipes, anything related to nappies. And along with all the keyword suggestions, which gives you an idea of what people are actually typing into the search engines, you also get a list of how many people are searching each and every month, okay? So this starts giving you some really, really great insights. Like, I don't know if you're starting to fathom this, but like 10 years ago, you would have had to pay a marketing firm tens of thousands of dollars to get this same insight, and it still wouldn't be this accurate, because you get an idea of what people's challenges, frustrations are, the level of demand for particular services, for particular products. For example, when this is just hypothetical, you may find that in that search for nappies, people are typing in no leak nappies. Bang, you've just identified a whole market of people that have a problem. Let's say that that's got 3,000 searches a month. What you would do is go away, set up a landing page that's specifically targeted at no leak nappies, even though it's still your normal everyday product, but you know you have a group of people with that problem. Does that make sense, guys? So you're looking for this sort of information. You're looking for what's going on for my market. What are their problems, challenges, frustrations, and how can I address that directly? So once you've done your keyword research, and this is where most professionals actually stop. So if you go to an SEO guy or an AdWords company, they're going to go through this exact same process. That's what you're going to pay them to do, and you could do this yourself very easily. But that's where they stop, and that's the mistake. Because the next step is you need to get a little bit of insight into which of these keywords are transactional and which of these keywords are informational. Because how else can you develop a strategy? Further on, one of the steps you've got to do is develop a landing page. And your landing page is basically where that visitor or that searcher is going to arrive at. You won't know what kind of information to put on there unless you have an idea of their search intent. And the way you do that is really, really simple, guys, okay? You take the keyword that you just looked at in that list. So start at the top of the list. In fact, you can sort it by most search. So just click the top of the column. So the most search is at the top, least search down the bottom. Any keyword that you feel may be relevant or related to your business, you take that keyword, go across to Google, and just type the keyword in Google. Now, when you do this, you'll need to put your browser in what they call private browsing mode or incognito, okay? If you don't know how to do that, just Google how to do that. The reason for that is that there's a good chance that you've typed in those keywords before and maybe gone to your own website and other websites, and Google remembers all of that. We need to do this with a clean slate as if you were a fresh customer looking for this, okay? So you put your browser in private mode or incognito, type in the keyword that you just pulled out of that keyword suggestion list, and then you start looking at the search results. Now, before I tell you what to look for, I want to go through a bit more of a concept of how Google works. So, Google monitors everything we do, both on an individual level and builds profiles on each one of us as an individual, but also as a collective level. And it monitors our behavior. So let's say that I type in a keyword today, I look for cheap nappies, and John types in cheap nappies, and you guys type in cheap nappies. It's going to present whatever results it thinks are relevant to us. But it doesn't just present those results and go away and forget about us. It monitors and watches what we do once we click on those results. So it knows that I've typed in cheap nappies, it's presented a particular result as number one, I click on that result and go to that website. If I then stay on that website, say for a minute, Google knows that I spent a minute browsing that page. If I continue on to another page and maybe purchase a product, Google knows that that search resulted in me purchasing that product. If, on the other hand, I arrive at that page and after 5 seconds I click the back button, Google knows that also. And Google's using all of that to build profiles around the keywords. So Google will initially present a range of different type of websites, in other words, informational websites, transactional websites, and it'll watch what people are doing. And over a period of time, Google builds a profile. Okay, so the majority of people that type in this particular search are actually doing a purchase. So it will show more of the transactional results in its search results. Does that make sense? So having this knowledge and knowing how Google works, we can use that to our advantage. Absolutely, yeah.
Like if you search one word, it'll just everything.
So it keeps showing you, yes.
Just that.
Absolutely. So now that we know this, we can use this to our advantage. So when we take that keyword, go back across to Google and type that in, we just analyze the search results that Google's presenting to us. And what we're looking for is something really simple. Of the 10 pages that come up, how many of them, I'm talking about the free pages, not the ads, how many of those results are informational, how many are transactional, and what position do they appear in. So in other words, you may find that every single result that comes up is someone trying to sell a product. In that case, you know with a certain degree of confidence, this is a transactional keyword. Google knows when people search on this keyword, all they want is to buy something, and Google presents all those results. If, on the other hand, it's 50-50, let's say it's half informational, half transactional, then you've got to start looking at some other things. What order are they in? Are all the informational ones first and the transactional ones second? And you'll actually see these patterns. You'll actually find sometimes that, for example, there's 5 informational results followed by 5 transactional results. So Google knows that people are looking for both, but predominantly people are looking for information first. Sometimes you'll find one single informational result and all the others are transactional. So Google knows that there's a whole bunch of people looking for info, but there's also a very strong buying demand on that. So this starts giving you some insight into which keywords fall into which category. So then you can move to the next step, which is to develop your campaign message. Because if you now know that the campaign message is around information, you're going to create a landing page that has information related to the product and service that you're trying to sell, okay? You need information on that page. If, on the other hand, you can see that they're all transactional, bang, you just send them straight to a sales page where they're actually going to buy something. Once you've developed your campaign message, the next step is to sit back and think about what you want on that landing page. Now, this is something everyone needs to write down, okay, guys? This is super important. 2 questions you need to ask yourself, whether it's online or offline marketing, it's irrelevant. 2 questions to always ask yourself with any marketing campaign. Number 1 is, what's the most wanted action? What do I want someone to do as a result of reading or viewing this marketing piece? Okay? And say to yourself, if there was just one single action I could choose, because you may think I want them to do X, I want them to do Y, I want them to do Z. If there was only one, if you could only get them to do one action, what would that action be? Okay? That needs to be the most prominent message on that page. You need to make sure that as soon as they see that landing page, or even if you're sending out a flyer or an email, whatever it is, that action is very clear and that you've got a very strong call to action to get them to perform that action. Question number 2. What do you want someone to know as a result of viewing that marketing piece? Okay, what do you want them to know? And once again, that message needs to be upfront and very obvious when they arrive on that page. You've probably come across lots and lots of web pages where you arrive at the page and you need to scroll down. It's very common on a web page because there's more information that can fit in the screen. That line at the bottom of the screen is referred to as the fold, okay? So in web development terms, we call it above the fold and below the fold. Those 2 questions, the most wanted action and what someone must know when they visit that page, need to always be above the fold. You know, I can't count the number of times people come and say, oh, my website isn't getting me conversions. And I say, well, what do you want someone to do? And I say, I want someone to request a quote. And I go to their website, and the first thing I see is a big, huge picture with no call to action, no information, just a nice, pretty picture. And I have to scroll down so far before I find the request a quote button or get an estimate, okay? It's got to be obvious. It's got to be above the fold when they arrive at that page. So
should that be in the header, like always there when you're scrolling through the page? Like the call to action should be always there.
As much as possible, sure, yeah. So landing page. So you need to strategize. So what we need to do at this point is develop what we call a wireframe, and this is just where you're going to sort of sit down, and it's a little bit like a floor plan for a building. Okay, so you're going to say, okay, I'm going to create this landing page. And in the landing page, I'm going to have the phone number at the top here. I'm going to have a big arrow and a message pointing to that. I'm going to have a menu. I'm going to have, I don't know, 3 teaser boxes which get that message across, whatever it is. This is all you're doing, just drawing a few boxes and saying this is the basic layout. And then you'll go to a graphic designer, web designer, and they'll create a nice layout with all the fancy bits and pieces on there. And the reason I want you to do this is because, unfortunately, many graphic designers, I'm not saying all, but many graphic designers, very talented, they make beautiful looking stuff, but a lot of them just don't get marketing. They don't understand calls to actions, and they leave that stuff off quite often, okay? What their main concern is, but I got to make it look pretty. I need the phone number to balance out with everything else. In fact, I don't want the phone number to stand out too much because it won't look balanced on the page. But that's not what we want. We want people to ring us, okay? So do a big, huge arrow here, but make it look nice. Put a message here. Call us now for a free quote and point that to the phone and put the phone number there in big. We want people to take action. It's there to make us money. Does that make sense, guys? So once you've done all of that, you've got your landing page all done, your designer set it all up, then we can go into Google AdWords and set up our actual campaign. Now, one of the things that we need to do when we set up a campaign, and we're not getting into the details of that, because that's like 1 hour of explaining how to set up a campaign, but I will say that one of the things you need to do as part of setting up your campaign is to run what's called a split test. So a few of you said that you're doing some online marketing. Who's doing some actual advertising online? Show of hands if you're doing advertising. Keep your hand up if you're doing any kind of split testing at the moment. Okay, so what split testing is all about is creating multiple ads. So you set up your Google AdWords campaign. Generally, most people will set up with one single ad per topic or per product or whatever it is. What we want to do here is we create our first campaign with our first ad. We take that first ad and then we duplicate that ad. And we set it up in a rotation. And basically what will happen is that we've got 2 ads, and in the second ad, we change one single element. We change one aspect of that ad. We don't write a completely different ad. We change one element, because what we're trying to do is to see which ad is going to perform better and why is that ad performing better. So a quick example of that would be a campaign that we recently ran for one of our clients. They're a timber wholesaler, and one of the lines in the ad read wholesale prices direct to public. And we duplicated that ad and we changed one single word. The only word we changed was trade. So we changed wholesale to trade. So it said trade prices direct to public. And then we ran that on a split test. And what happens with a split test is that person number 1 comes along, they see ad A. Person number 2 comes along, they see ad B. Person number 3 comes along and they see ad A. Person 4 comes along and what will they see? B. Okay, that's all it does. It just rotates. And that gives us a good idea of which ad is performing better. And then we can identify which elements of those ads are performing better. And what we found, for example, with wholesale and trade is that by using the word trade instead of wholesale, we actually increased the number of actions by 50%. 50% more people clicked on that ad simply because it said trade rather than wholesale. And what we do is we try and run an absolute minimum of 100 actions. So we run that ad until we get at least 100 actions. Personally, I prefer getting 2, 3, 4, 500 because the more actions you get, the more valid the statistics are. But you want at least 100 actions. And then what you do, guys, is you don't just stop there. You don't just say, okay, cool, I know that the word trade works better. I know that I was going to run that ad forever now. You take that second ad, the winning ad, that becomes what we call the control ad. You duplicate that one and change another element and try and get it better again. Now, I've worked with companies in the past, and even for my own strategies, where we've started off with ads converting at, say, or getting actions of about 0.6%. So, you get 100 or you get 200 people through to get one person to actually click on it. And running through this process and changing it over a period of months, getting click-through rates of up to 6 or 7%, which are quite good. On the subject of that, I'll give you, and this is only really, really general, but I'll give you a brief overview of what a good click-through rate is, an average click-through rate, and a poor click-through rate, as well as, actually, I'm going to do a quick test first. Who here wants to guess what an average conversion rate is? In other words, how many people you need to get to a website to make one sale in a percentage? Who wants to guess what a good conversion rate is? Yep.
2.5%.
2.5% is 1. Anyone else?
Less, 1%.
1%?
Somewhere between 1 and 3.
1 and 3?
9.
2.5 on the money. Spot on. If I had a Ferrero Rocher, I'd throw it to you right now. So 2.5% is the average conversion rate. That means that 97.5% of your time, energy, and money is all going down the drain unless you have other strategies in place to capture those. So same goes for click-through. So there's generally 2 aspects that we're measuring when we're setting up any marketing campaign. One is the effectiveness of our actual ad. In other words, whether it's a Facebook ad, Google AdWords ad, whatever it is. And click-through rates generally go like this. Anything from about 0 to 2% is considered poor. Anything from 2 to 3% is considered average. Anything above 3% is considered good. Okay? So that's click-through rates for an ad. Remember, an ad doesn't sell. An ad just sends people to a page, and the page will then try and sell to them. Conversion rates are basically identical. 0 to 2% is considered poor, 2 to 3% is average, 3 plus is considered good. Okay? Now, these statistics can also help you out when you're doing your keyword research to get an idea of how viable a marketing campaign is going to be. So remember I said earlier, when you do your keyword research, Google tells you how many people are actually searching per month. So now that you have these statistics, you can use those to get a little bit of an idea, an insight into potentially how much you could actually make from a particular campaign. Let's say that we know that a particular campaign has got 1,000, or a particular keyword has 1,000 searches per month. Based on the average click-through rate of, say, 2.5%, we know we're going to get 25 people clicking through. On that 25, how many sales we're going to make? 0, because the next conversion rate is also 2.5%, and on 25 you're going to get none. So you need about 3,000 searches on average to make one sale in general. This is going to change in different industries and different niches and all that sort of stuff, but this is just very broad. So at least you've got a bit of an idea when you're looking at these statistics. So once you've set up and run your A/B split test, the final step, and this is really, really critical, otherwise all of this was wasted and for nothing, is to set up what we call conversion tracking. So Google AdWords has a little tool in it where you can get a little piece of code. You put that code on the final page on your website of any process, whether it's a sale, whether it's requesting a contact, an estimate. You can even track how many people physically call you. Did you guys know that? So when you're running Google AdWords, you can know exactly how many phone calls to your business that resulted in. Google has a little service where you can put a little piece of code on your website, and anytime someone clicks on a Google AdWords ad, it'll swap out your phone number for a specific Google-created phone number, which will then redirect to your normal number. The benefit of that is that you not only know how many sales inquiries you get via email, but you also know how many people are physically ringing you because of a particular Google AdWords ad. And believe it or not, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything extra. It's all part of the Google AdWords program. So you need to set up this conversion tracking so you can then track to see which keywords are performing, which ads are performing, not just from Google's aspect of, okay, they got clicks, but which ones actually got people to take action on your website. Once you have all of that information, at some point down the track, you can then go and set up your search engine optimization or your SEO strategy using those same keywords, the ones you now know convert for sure. You're not guessing, you're not hoping, you're not relying on some SEO guy that really has very little idea, but you're running your SEO campaign based on actual results that you know get you conversions in your business. So any questions or queries on that so far, guys? Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, actually before I do that, is there anything particular you'd like me to cover? Do you want to, anything specific that you guys want to know about? Because we've got another 15 minutes or so, is that right, John?
15 is great, yeah.
All right, so is there anything, before I go, because I've got plenty of stuff here, but is there anything specific you guys want to know about? Yes?
I don't know much about Instagram. Apparently Instagram is a better marketing forum now than Facebook or... something about pods, you can join a pod and that's a better marketing tool.
I'm not familiar with that last term that you use, pod. I can talk a little bit about Instagram though. Look, Instagram has a lot of potential. Instagram's predominantly about brand recognition rather than direct conversions. Part of the challenges with Instagram is that it's very, very international. It's almost impossible to target local. So if you've got a following of, say, 10,000 people, chances are 9,500 are international, will never ever be your clients. Maybe 500 are local. And of those, depending on the service as well, depending on what you're in, because clearly it needs to be very visual. And if you're an accountant, for example, there's only so many flowcharts and stuff you can put up on Instagram to make it interesting. But if you have a very visual-based business, if you're a graphic designer, if you're doing house renovations or that sort of stuff, if it's a very visual product or service that you have, then sure, that can help. And it's usually tied in with other things though. You would generally use that as either, so let's come back to our strategy steps that we spoke about, because it's not just should I use Instagram, what are you going to use it for? Can you use it for lead generation? Probably, but it's not going to be a terribly effective tool, but you can generate some leads from it. Prospect nurturing and customer nurturing, absolutely. You get your existing customers to follow you and you put up interesting pictures and give them ideas and get into conversations with them. So it depends how you want to use it and how it fits into that strategy, as opposed to should I use Instagram for my business? Don't know. Which step you're going to use it for. Does that answer your question? Cool.
Just a query about doing it yourself or getting an SEO company in to help you, because past experience is pretty much exactly as you said.
Yeah.
The SEO people charge a lot of money for limited results.
Yeah. So I definitely recommend getting your head around the stuff we spoke about here. So if you're serious about online marketing, that's a decision you need to make in your business as well. Like, do I just want to be online and have the equivalent of an electronic brochure online, or do I actually want to and expect to generate a reasonable amount of business? Am I going to generate 40, 50, 60% of my revenue online? So that's the first step. And then depending on the answers to those questions, you need to decide, okay, how serious do I get about this? How much time and energy do I put into this? But either way, anything from, okay, yes, I want to be online, I'm going to take it reasonably serious. These fundamentals, I highly recommend you learn and get on top of yourself, okay? Especially this process with doing a keyword analysis, getting your Google AdWords up and running, and identifying which keywords work. Because whether you use an external SEO company or do it yourself, either way, because an external SEO company will go through that same process, but they're just going to recommend the keywords, as we said earlier, without knowing which keywords are going to get a result. So despite what they say, whatever, the SEO company, in my view, is this. I already know what keywords I want. I know these keywords work. Now you make this happen. You get me ranking for these keywords. I wouldn't use an SEO company outside of that.
Yeah, so just use them to do the legwork after
Yeah.
you've done
The research, yeah. Yeah, because they're not going to do the research. That's the problem. Yeah. They'll charge you for the research, and they all do. It's $500 to $1,000 for what they call setup, and they're going to do exactly that. But they're not going to actually run the campaigns, set up the conversion tracking, and come back and say, we know these keywords work.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Any difference between retail products and B2B sort of highly?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, huge difference. The same concepts apply, but the implementation is completely different. The platforms you use are going to be quite different. The marketing messages, you may not get them to follow you on Facebook. You may get them to sign up for email marketing instead, or follow you on LinkedIn. So the implementation will look very different, but that same 7 steps remains the same regardless of what it is. Does that answer the question? Anyone else? Yes.
Do you have any views or ideas on SMS marketing? Is that something you've been implementing or anything?
Look, I've done a little bit. We're kind of using it a little bit in our business at the moment with the retail shops. So just to take a step back, so part of our process, when we do phone repairs, we've got a little system that when they book in their phone, they get an SMS saying your phone's booked in now. We let them know, okay, one of our technicians has started working on your device. And when it's repaired, they get an SMS as well. So we're building that up. And we've got a database of about 10,000 odd people now for the future thing of doing some very light SMS marketing. I don't know whether it's going to be successful or not now. We're just setting up the infrastructure so we've got it. But yeah, I haven't done a lot of it, but it is something we're going to explore, yes.
Is that a hard process to set up, or is it?
No, look, no, it's not. It can be quite easy. Just a matter of what infrastructure you're going to use for that, though. Yes.
Information overload. So we've got a large database, send out emails, we've got an event. My shoe leather marketing sometimes works better if I invite people personally.
Sure.
I send out 40,000 emails, 10% get read, the rest we don't know what happens to them. So, how great is email marketing? You're referring to SMS. I've started a little bit more, clients communicate by Facebook. I've got people in Southern Africa that want to use WhatsApp. I didn't have it on my phone, I had to load it up. So it's like so many different forms of overload. What's the place for email marketing?
Well, I think email marketing is still a very valid form of marketing. Once again, it all comes down to strategy. So in other words, you need to put time and effort into any of these campaigns. And the key behind any of them is that the content has to be relevant, useful, and interesting, okay? If you're just promoting and marketing stuff that you're doing, unless someone has that problem and needs it solved, that's not relevant, useful, or interesting to them. So it's about taking time to identify what are the challenges, frustrations, problems, issues that your customers are facing, and providing them with that content, providing them the information that they're actually looking for, answering the questions that they're actually asking through that. That's how you get them to actually engage with any of those mediums. It doesn't matter whether it's Facebook or email marketing. If you put up useless content that has no relevance to them, they're not going to read it and not going to engage. And then that needs to be also tied in, of course, with calls to actions and any of that sort of stuff. So I guess, look, email marketing still be very, very effective. On average, the average open rate in email marketing is about 6%. So if you're getting around about that 6% mark, you're doing okay. To get people to open emails, it's purely based on the subject line. So coming up with different things to improve your subject lines. Little tip, guys, if you want to, I spoke about split testing before. We ran a split test years ago, probably about 10 years ago, on one of our email marketing lists. So you can run split tests just like with any other advertising campaign with an email marketing list. Most email marketing platforms allow you to do this. Just say you've got a list of 10,000 people. You'll split the list into two. You then create an email, duplicate that email, and just change one aspect of that email. If you want to get people to open an email, you change the subject line. That's what gets people to open emails. And then you send one email out to half the group and the other email out to the other group. One of the things that we tested a few years back, just by sheer coincidence, was simply adding the word "re" to the beginning of the subject line. And we got an increase in open rates of about 50%. So 50% more people are opening their emails when we use the word "re." We ran that test about half a dozen times, and now the bulk of my emails that I send out, I include the word "re" at the beginning because I know it'll get more people to open it. So just a little tip for you guys if you want to get more people to open your emails. But yeah, so to answer your question, yeah, it's still valid and relevant. But look, it's not going to be for every industry or every group. It's going to be dependent on a particular niche. Either way, what I usually recommend, guys, because like a lot of people ask, should I do this? Should I do that? I usually recommend in most cases, give it a try. But what's really important is to make sure that you've got conversion tracking set up. It's not just about sending out an email blast or just putting up a post. Know how you're going to measure it. Know what you're going to measure and how you're going to measure it. Because that way you can determine for yourself whether that particular marketing medium is going to work for you on an ongoing basis. Does that answer your question a bit?
We do
Cool.
a email out as a part of a strategy with a newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
So you might know industry at the moment, there's something that's a hot topic, or
Yep.
a tender is coming or a tender is out, so we'll send a targeted email around that. And then we know who reads our email, we know how long they spent.
Yep, great.
Page open, they know how many people they forwarded that to in their organisation.
Yep.
And then use that to follow up.
Yeah, that's really good. In fact, what you can do, and you may already do that already, is you can even drill down further and create a segment out of the people that opened that, and then have a follow-up message that's related to the original message, but that only goes to the ones that have opened it because it's relevant to them. And you'll probably find that your open rates and engagement will skyrocket on those ones because it's follow-up from the previous message, but it's only going to the people who were interested in that previous message as well. So there's lots of strategy you can develop around that sort of stuff as well. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else have any questions or queries? Yes.
How many keywords should you have? Some people say the more the better, other people.
So once again, coming back to keywords, it's all about targeting and grouping, okay? So it's not just about getting 100 different keywords and trying to optimize our homepage or run one advertising campaign with these 100 different keywords. Everything has to be as targeted and as relevant as possible. So you want to capture as many keywords that fit within a certain group. So let's come back to our nappies example of keyword research earlier, okay? If you were to go into Google Keyword Planner and type in the word nappies, one of the features that Google Keyword Planner also has is that not only does it give you a big list of the keywords, but Google will also automatically create what it calls ad groups. And ad groups are what Google has analyzed and is recommending as closely related keywords. So if you type in the word nappies, you'll find, about 800 different keywords come up, but the keyword groups specifically come through as cloth nappies, cloth diapers, disposable nappies. So it's taking all the keywords that have the word cloth nappies, so it might be girls' cloth nappies, cheap cloth nappies, overnight cloth nappies, and putting them all together in one keyword group. And you would then take that group, the group that's only about cloth nappies, you would create an ad about cloth nappies and create a landing page about cloth nappies. Does that make sense? So you can have as many keyword groups as you want, and you can have as many keywords as you want, as long as they're closely related and all make sense. Because I'm going to write an ad, every keyword that I choose has to be related to that ad. So there's no fixed number. It's all about relevance and targeting.
We have one of our club members who uses a digital marketing company, and I won't disclose it. And they identified 4,800 keywords, and they were spreading their AdWord marketing across those 4,800.
Yeah, okay.
And they were wondering why they weren't getting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a bit broad. Yeah, that'd be a hell of a lot of ads for them to create if they're grouping them properly. Anyway, so any other questions or queries, guys? Anything particularly you want to know about, whether it's websites, Facebook, or anything specific at all? Yes.
I'm curious on automation of your posts. I know there's software real estate agents use it, which allows you to schedule and automate across Facebook.
Yeah, sure.
Others. I guess that's the same thing of setting up. So I know a real estate agent, they're advertising property, so each one's tailor-made in a way.
Yeah. So look, there's a number of those the tools around. Some of the more common ones are Hootsuite. That's probably the most used. Hootsuite is it's basically a social media dashboard where you can connect up a number of different social media platforms, and you can manage the whole campaign through that as well. So you no longer need to go log into Facebook, log into Instagram, log into LinkedIn. You can just do everything through Hootsuite, for example. There's also Buffer App as well. Most of those are paid services though. Buffer App lets you start for free. I think you can do X amount of posts per month for free scheduled. And then I can't remember. I think they start at like $79 a month or something. But it's basically the equivalent of having Outlook managing 5 or 6 different email boxes, where instead of going into Gmail, Hotmail, your other mail, you just open up Outlook. You've got all the email boxes there, and you can do all your communication from the one spot. So, as well as scheduling that sort of stuff. Does that answer your question? Cool.
What about LinkedIn? Using LinkedIn to generate inquiries, or what's the effectiveness?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, with LinkedIn, who's here on LinkedIn, by the way? Just out of curiosity. Cool, everyone, good. So as you all know, LinkedIn is basically the equivalent of having an online resume for yourself on a personal level, and then you can also have a company page on LinkedIn as well. If you want to generate some business on LinkedIn, you do need to get a bit more involved than just having a basic profile up in your company and personal profile. You want to become a contributor and start contributing content, just like you would on any other platform. Once again, it comes down to the same basic principles: useful, relevant, interesting content, quite often incomplete as well, and posting that sort of stuff on LinkedIn on a regular basis, identifying not just stuff you like, but the stuff that's going to be of relevance to your actual followers or readers. On top of that, you can also participate in various groups if they exist for your particular industry. So quite often there'll be, even a Perth-based group, or maybe a WA-based group where people are asking questions. It might be small business owners, for example. They might be asking questions on bookkeeping, accounting, all kinds of stuff related to business. So if you run an accounting business, you might hop on there and answer questions. The important thing with LinkedIn, though, is avoiding promoting your services directly, but promote through example rather than, hey, I'm an accountant, this is what I do. Show rather than tell. So people are asking questions and you show your expertise, and people will quite often reach out and ask you more questions on a personal level as well if you do it on a regular basis. Once again, on an individual level, you need to determine how much time, energy, and resources you put into it, and whether it's worth a return on investment. So. Okay. Any other questions or queries, guys? Yes.
So, just how often, if you keep changing your campaigns and your ads, should you be updating your web page, landing pages, and whatnot?
Yeah, absolutely, especially based on that. So, look, it's a constant process, because you're going to be monitoring and tracking your lead generation tools or resources, whether it's Facebook ads, Google AdWords ads, your SEO. So for those, you'll be running things like split tests, improving those ads, and increasing your click-through rates as much as possible. And then you'll be monitoring your landing pages as well, and you'll be monitoring your conversion rates on your landing pages, and you'll be making adjustments, tweaks, and stuff as well. So one of the cool things, guys, is that we've been talking about doing split tests on things such as ads and emails and that sort of stuff, but you can even run split tests on actual web pages. So who's here's got a website, by the way, just out of curiosity? Okay, so Keep your hand up if you use Google Analytics on your website. Cool. If you're not, everyone should be using Google Analytics. Google Analytics is Google's measuring tool, basically. You get a little piece of code from Google Analytics, put it on your website, and all of a sudden it gives you all this insight into what's happening when people arrive on your website, what they're doing, how long they're staying, where they're clicking, where they're going from one page to the next, all of this sort of info. But one of the features of Google Analytics that a lot of people aren't aware of is a feature called experiments. And experiments let you run a whole range of tests. And specifically, you can also run split tests. And you can do everything from swapping out one element of a page. So you can just create one page and have Google, for example, change the button. So it'll change different colored buttons, or swap out buttons with different words on them. So you can see which button is getting more clicks. Right down to a whole A/B split test, we can have page A, page B, and Google takes care of all the technical fun stuff and will literally rotate those two pages. So people always put in the one single URL, and Google will rotate that page and show it in rotation. I want to give you an example of how useful this can be, okay? A couple of years back, once again, I was talking to a guy over in the States who's sharing some marketing strategies with me, and he asked me, have you ever split tested your pricing? And I said, no, I haven't. How do you do that? Tell me, I'm really interested. So it's really simple. You using Google Experiments, you duplicate your page, change nothing on the page except the price, everything else remains the same, and just run it and see what happens. Now, the interesting thing is that if person one comes along and they visit this page, if they come along tomorrow, they'll still see page A. So they'll always see page A. If, on the other hand, they go home and check their browser at home, there's a possibility they'll see page B because it's a different browser. And that does happen sometimes, but let's forget about that side. So back out when I started and I ran this test, I was selling this product for $19. This was the only product I was selling, and it was in the year that I made my $6,500 turnover. So when this guy went through this strategy with me, I did a split test at $27. Everything was identical. Nothing changed except the price. The interesting thing after running this for a month is that we sold the exact same number of units. Didn't matter which price it was at, we still sold the same number of units. So I suddenly increased my revenue by 50%. Thought, this is really cool. I'm going to try it again. So we took the $27 product, ran an A/B split test at $37. We ran it for a month. Guess what? Exact same number of sales. The number of units did not change. So now I increased my revenue by 100%. I'm making 100% more income now, because this is the only product I had at the time, by doing nothing more than just changing the price and running a split test. We kept doing this until we got to $67. At $67, our revenue would start dropping. So that became the new price for that product. So running a free split test and just implementing a strategy increased our revenue by 3 times by simply running something as simple as a split test. This is why you need to be doing this stuff. I want to put something in context for you as well, guys. I've got some friends that work at booking.com. Everyone heard of booking.com? So booking.com has one website and one app. And they're doing all of this sort of stuff all the time. Amazon does the same. All the big companies do this. What was a surprise to me is that booking.com has 150 data scientists doing this stuff each and every day. 150 people analyzing thousands of points of data to increase conversion rates, increase click-through rates, and all they do is analyze. They don't do the work. That then gets handed over to the rest of the IT team. They've got an IT team of 3,000 people at booking.com to run one website. Now, we can't do that sort of stuff, obviously, but just to show you the level of importance, that's what it takes to get these big mega sites to the level that they are with the traffic that they have. Now, as I said, we're not able to do that, but we still need to implement this sort of stuff because this is what's going to help us grow. You can't fix or you can't improve what you can't measure. And having these strategies in place is vital to be able to do that. Any other questions or queries, guys? Yes?
I want to go back to this example.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be important to know your competitor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. At the time, I think they were selling it for about $49. I'm going back like 9 or 10 years here, so I'm pushing my memory, but I think that the competitor's product was $49. So we're able to end up getting more than our competitor.
How can you analyse what competitors are
As in, well, I just visit their website.
Their Google, you know, how many hits that they're getting.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, no.
You can't find out what keywords they're using on their website.
Look, there are a few things where you can sort of build a bit of a profile, but you can't know for sure. You can just guess.
It's more important about what you're doing anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Look, I mean, your competitors and stuff, I monitor other people a lot, but I just do that to get ideas to model and to build my ideas on, and then I'll do my own testing and measuring. Any other questions or queries, guys? Video, tell me more.
Is it, there's a lot of people now promoting the use of video.
Absolutely, yes.
And
I think video is very, very powerful. Once again, it depends on the specific niche and industry. Interesting stat. And this is about 4 years old now. I've got to get this updated. But 4 years ago, Australians were watching 3 times the amount of video online than they were TV. Online video is really, really prolific. Once again, on this same website, actually, this same page here, another test that we ran was purely text. The whole page was text, and we added a video to the page. Now, admittedly, this was about 10 years ago. If you did that today, you wouldn't get the same increase in sales. But our sales increased by about 25% by doing nothing more than putting a video at the top of that page back then. Once again, as I said, today, I think that's going to be lower because people are a lot more used to video, and people are also a lot more comfortable with the web. And it also depends on the type of video. You know, if you're going to be in the video, that helps create a real personal touch, because the web is a bit of a cold place, and it helps build rapport with your prospective clients if they know who you are and they can see and you're having a bit of a chat with them. On the other hand, you can also use things such as whiteboard videos or explainer videos. Whiteboard videos are the ones where someone's drawing on a board. You know, have you seen those videos? Someone's drawing in a texter and they kind of put some concepts up. Explainer videos are those little animated cartoon videos. If you've got, especially in a service-based business, or if you've got a number of different, you know, if you're a solutions provider as opposed to just selling a single product, those sort of explainer videos can be a really, really good way to get your message across really quickly, easily, so people can comprehend what you do very easily. And believe it or not, they can be really cheap. You can get those created, you know, quite a decent video for a couple of $100, literally. It doesn't have to cost thousands. So yeah, there's a whole range of different options available in that space as well. So, any other questions or queries?
Blogs.
Sorry?
Importance of having a blog.
Yeah, look, once again, blogs are part of a strategy. So from an SEO point of view, blogs can be beneficial. It can help you get a little bit of extra SEO ranking. But really, it's about your strategy. So if you're going to be running a blog, it's predominantly because you either want to generate leads through you being an authority or an expert in your particular field, or you want to use it as a prospect nurturing or a customer nurturing tool. And then you need to make a decision of, you know, if you're using it as lead generation, you may be better off creating a Facebook-based blog, because you've really got a captive market there. It's much easier to advertise that blog within Facebook and all of that sort of thing. Whereas if you're using it from a prospect or customer nurturing, you may want it on your own website. So it's really about what's your strategy, and you're developing a strategy around it as well, whether and how you're going to use a blog.
And is there any stuff that's, you know, really top of the way stuff at the moment that you've seen coming through that's going to change all this?
Look, there's always new stuff. And a couple of days ago, someone was telling me about some new app that's got to do with some voice messaging and some other stuff. Look, me personally, and look, this is an individual personal opinion. I'm quite happy to be near the front of what's happening, but I don't want to be I don't necessarily want to be a market leader. I don't want to take those risks. I'm going to stick with what I know works. I'm going to wait and see what else works. A quick example, Twitter. I get people constantly asking me, should I be twittering or tweeting? Unless you're a public figure or a celebrity of some kind, I'm yet to see one single business owner that can prove to me that they've got a positive return on investment on their Twitter campaign. I've never seen one get a positive return on investment. So in general, my answer is no. And people are saying for years, you have to get on Twitter. You got to do Twitter. You know, it's this new thing. I'm more about, hey, I know that this works. I've tested and measured it. I'm going to use this for now. When new things come out, I'll watch what other people do in that space, get some ideas, test my own campaigns and see whether that works or not. But the big key, once again, is whatever you're doing, test and measure. I can't push that enough. You've got to test and measure everything, because that'll tell you whether you keep doing it. Sure, you'll spend a few bucks the first time to set up and run a campaign, but you'll only ever do it once if it doesn't work. After that, you're not going to spend money in that area anymore. Any other questions or queries, guys?
Have you ever come across a business that shouldn't do SEO or Google? And the reason why I say that is I had to cancel mine because, like, I'm selling to 100-story buildings. We did an SEO program about 2 years ago, and it just got flooded with people trying to like bike parts.
Yeah, sure.
Not set up for that
Yeah.
So I had to cancel, and like everything says you should be doing SEO, you should be doing all this, but it just flooded us with all this info. Like, it was,
look, one of the things, like when I'm talking to someone about developing a strategy, one of the questions I ask is what's your intent or goal? Like, do you want to generate leads? Do you want to use your online marketing as a support mechanism for people? Like, you may not want to use it for lead generation. Maybe people have heard about you somewhere else, and you want your online stuff to be more a support tool to give them a better idea of what you do, how you do it, as a resource for prospect nurturing. So it really depends on what it is. And more specifically then coming down to SEO, if the bulk of those searches are all people looking for those little small parts that just isn't your market, and the big corporates are not doing SEO, they're asking other people, then maybe your lead generation needs to predominantly be offline, or maybe on something like LinkedIn or somewhere, and your website is not about lead generating, but rather supporting that network. So once again, it all comes back to the strategy development and what's going to work for your business specifically.
Could I just put a point there? I guess you could leave it as organic SEO when you're doing information, as opposed to paid SEO to try and attract customers, because it's an informational one. People will find you, as opposed to your targeted customers you want with 100-story buildings, and that's where you pay money to look after them. But the other one's an information. It's still valid, but you don't want to spend money on that. They'll find you.
With AdWords, you can do negative AdWords, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when you're running your Google AdWords campaigns, click-through and conversions is all about return on investment. Like, there's no point getting huge click-through rates and your return on investment is terrible. A classic example: one of my ads a little while ago, I was tracking all the way through right down to the cost per conversion, and it was an ad for iPhone repairs. Our average iPhone repair cost is about $150, $160. The average cost per conversion on that particular ad was $215. So it was costing me $215 to get a $150 sale. Clearly not viable. We tweaked that. We put in some negative qualifiers. Negative qualifiers are things such as putting in the price, for example. So saying starting from $150 for the repair. Brought our conversion rates way down, and suddenly, our conversion cost per conversion, it was then costing us $34 per conversion, which is viable for us to sell a $160 repair. And that was purely by doing negative qualifiers in our ads. So that's a very valid strategy as well. Negative keywords and negative qualifiers. So, yeah. All right. Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much, guys. I hope that you found what we went through useful today. And hopefully I've given you some stuff that you can actually go away and implement as well. Thanks for your time.